The knife fell from her hand and hit the floor with a loud clank. It was not food he was holding. It was not water. It was not sleep he was looking for. Her husband was standing in the kitchen at 2:17 a.m., whispering to someone who was not alive. And when the thing on the kitchen table moved, her heart nearly stopped. Before we go any further, have you ever caught someone you love doing something they were never meant to do? Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Because what she saw that night changed everything. And it all started with a habit she ignored for too long. Mira lay in bed, wide awake. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned slowly above her head. 1, 2, 3, around and around. She had counted it so many times she lost count. Beside her, her husband Caden was already gone. Again, this was the 5th night in a row. Every night, around the same time, Caden would slip out of bed without a word. No light, no noise, just a soft movement beside her. Then the sound of the bedroom door closing gently like he was afraid to wake the walls. At first, Mira told herself it was nothing. Maybe he's just hungry, she thought. Or maybe he couldn't sleep. Or maybe he just liked the quiet of the night. That was easier to believe than the other thoughts trying to grow inside her mind. But tonight felt different. Tonight, her chest felt tight. Caden had always been a good husband. Kind, calm, quiet. He worked long hours and came home tired. But he never forgot to ask how her day was. He never raised his voice. He never stayed out late. He never hit his phone. That was why this new habit made no sense. Every night, the kitchen, the same time, Mira had asked him once. Just once. "Caden," she said one morning while pouring tea, trying to sound casual, "why do you always go to the kitchen at night?" He froze, just for a second. Then he smiled. "I get thirsty," he said quickly. "Too quickly. That's all." She laughed it off then. But something in his eyes stayed with her. Fear. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Food went missing, but not the kind you snack on. Raw meat. Spices, large cooking pots moved from their place. Once, Mira found the kitchen sink filled with dark water early in the morning. When she asked about it, Caden said he had washed some old dishes. But there were no dishes, just a smell, a heavy smell she couldn't explain. At night, she started hearing sounds, soft ones, a low hum, a whisper, sometimes a tapping sound, always from the kitchen, always after Caden left the bed. That night, Mira pretended to sleep. She kept her breathing slow, her eyes closed, her body still. At exactly 2:15 a.m., she felt the bed move. Caden stood up. He paused, like he always did, as if checking to see if she was awake. Mira did not move. The door opened, then closed. Her heart began to beat so loud, she was sure the whole house could hear it. This is stupid, she told herself. But her feet were already touching the floor. The hallway was dark. The house felt different at night. Larger, colder. Mira stepped softly, holding her breath with every step. The light under the kitchen door was on. That alone made her stomach twist. He never turned on the light. She reached the corner of the hallway and stopped. That's when she heard his voice. Not loud, not normal. He was whispering. "I told you be patient." Myra's hand started to shake. Who was he talking to? She took another step closer. Then another. The kitchen door was slightly open. Just enough. She leaned forward and looked inside. Caden stood with his back to her. He was wearing an apron she had never seen before. Dark. Stained. The kitchen table was cleared. No plates and no cups. Only a large covered pot sat in the middle of the table. Candles surrounded it. Red candles. They flickered softly, throwing strange shadows on the walls. Myra's mouth went dry. This was not thirst. This was not hunger. Then Caden lifted the lid, and something inside the pot moved. Mira covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. The smell hit her next. Metallic. Thick. Caden leaned forward and whispered again. "Just a little longer," he said gently. She's getting close. Her knees almost gave out. She's getting close? He turned slightly, and Mira saw his face in candlelight. He was smiling. Not the smile she knew. This one was calm, loving, like he was talking to someone precious. Then the thing inside the pot made a soft sound, a sound that did not belong in any kitchen. And at that exact moment, Caden suddenly stopped moving. His head tilted, slowly, toward the door, toward her. "Mira," he said quietly without turning around. "I know you're there." Her heart stopped, and the kitchen light flickered. Mira could not move. Her feet felt glued to the floor. Her hands were cold. Her heart was beating so fast it hurt. Caden was still facing the table. He had not turned around. Yet he knew. "I can hear you breathing," he said softly. The candles flickered again, as if the air itself was afraid. Mira swallowed hard. Her mouth felt dry like sand. I couldn't sleep," she said, her voice shaking. "I was just looking for water." Silence filled the kitchen. Then Caden laughed. Not loud, not angry. Just a slow, quiet laugh that made her skin crawl. "Still lying," he said. "Even now." He finally turned around. Caden's eyes looked darker than usual. Not angry, not wild. Focused, like someone who had already made a decision long ago. "You were never good at pretending," he said gently. "You always breathe faster when you're scared." Mira took a small step back. "What is this?" she asked. "Caden, what are you doing?" He looked down at the pot, then back at her. "I was hoping you wouldn't see this yet," he said. "But maybe it's time." "Time?" Her legs felt weak. "Time for what?" she whispered. Caden walked closer, but slowly, carefully, like he didn't want to scare her. "Please don't run," he said. "If you run, things will get worse." That sentence froze her blood. Myra's eyes went back to the pot. It moved again, just a little. "What's in there?" she asked. Her voice cracked. Caden followed her gaze. Then he placed his hand on the lid. "Promise me something," he said. "Promise you won't scream." Mira shook her head. "No," she said. "Open it. Now." Caden hesitated. For the first time that night, fear crossed his face. Then slowly he lifted the lid. Inside the pot was not food. It was a small wooden box. Old, dark, covered with strange marks carved into it. The box shook from inside. Mira gasped. "That's it," she said, confused. "A box." Caden nodded. "Yes," he said. "And no. I didn't start this," Caden said quickly, as if afraid she might stop listening. "It started long before we met." He pulled a chair and sat down heavily. "My mother," he continued, "she gave this to me before she died." Mira frowned. "You told me she died in a car accident." "She did," he said, "but not the way you think." He looked at the box again. "She said our family was chosen," he whispered. "That something has been living with us for generations. Feeding, waiting." Mira felt dizzy. "This is crazy," she said. "You're tired. You need help." "I knew you'd say that," Caden replied sadly. "That's why I never told you." The box shook harder. Tap, tap, tap. Something inside was knocking. "What does it want?" Mira asked quietly. Caden closed his eyes. "Care," he said. "Attention. And sometimes—" He didn't finish the sentence. "Sometimes what?" she pressed. "Sometimes it needs blood," he whispered. The room spun. "Blood," she repeated. "Caden, listen to yourself." "I am listening." He snapped suddenly, his calm breaking. "It speaks to me when you're asleep. It tells me what will happen if I stop." Mira took another step back until her back hit the wall. "What will happen?" she asked. Caden opened his eyes and looked at her. "You'll die." The word hung in the air like smoke. "You said something earlier," Mira said slowly, trying to stay calm. "You said she's getting close." Caden looked away. "Mira," he began. "No," she said firmly. "Who were you talking about?" The box suddenly went still. Too still. Caden swallowed. "It knows you," he said. "It's been watching you, learning you." Myra's stomach dropped. "That's impossible." It's not, he replied. That's why it's restless. That's why it wakes me every night. The lights flickered again. Then the box moved, harder than before. Crack. A thin line appeared along the wood. Something inside pushed back. Mira screamed. Caden jumped up. Stop, he shouted, not at her but at the box. The knocking stopped instantly. Silence returned. Caden turned to her, panic in his eyes. You weren't supposed to see that, he said. Now it knows you're afraid. He reached for her hand. Mira pulled away. No, she said, her voice shaking. I'm leaving. Caden shook his head. You can't, he said. Why? She cried. Because if you walk out that door, he said slowly, it will follow you instead of me. At that moment, the kitchen door slammed shut on its own, and the candles went out. Darkness swallowed the kitchen. The candles were out. The light was gone. The room felt smaller, tighter, like it was closing in on them. Mira screamed and rushed to the door. She grabbed the handle and pulled with all her strength. It did not move. Caden, she cried. Open it. I didn't lock it, he said quickly. His voice sounded different now, scared. I swear. Mira banged on the door. Help, she shouted. No answer. The house was silent, like it had stopped breathing. Then, tap, tap, tap. The sound came from the table. The box. Mira turned slowly. She could barely see, but she could feel it. The box was shaking again. Harder. Faster. Tap, 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 tap. Then she heard it. A whisper. Not Caden's voice. Not human. Mayra. Her name slid through the air like cold smoke. She covered her ears. I'm not listening, she cried. Caden stepped in front of her, spreading his arms like he was trying to protect her. Don't speak to her, he said firmly. The whisper stopped. For a second, everything was quiet. Then the box spoke again. You are tired, Caden. Caden froze. You have carried me long enough. Myra's legs trembled. It talks, she whispered. It really talks. Caden nodded slowly, his eyes locked on the box. That's why I go to the kitchen, he said. Every night. To keep it calm. To keep you safe. The lights suddenly flickered back on. Mira blinked. The kitchen looked normal again. Too normal. But the box was different. The crack in the wood had grown wider. Something dark moved inside. What happens if you stop? Mira asked quietly. Caden swallowed. It finds another way, he said. Another host. Mira shook her head. No, she said. This isn't real. We can call someone. A doctor. A priest. Anyone. Caden laughed bitterly. I tried, he said. It doesn't like visitors. As if on cue, the lights flickered again. The refrigerator door opened by itself, then slammed shut. Mira jumped. You see, Caden said. It doesn't want help. It wants control. The box began to hum. Low, deep, angry. You promised. The voice said, you promised me a future. Caden's hand shook. I've done everything you asked, he said. Everything. The humming grew louder. You promise her. Mira felt her blood turn cold. Her, she whispered. What does that mean? Caden turned to her slowly. Tears filled his eyes. I was supposed to prepare you, he said. Slowly. Gently. Prepare me for what? Mira screamed. Before he could answer, the box slammed open. The lid flew back and hit the wall. Inside was not darkness. It was light. A pulsing red glow. And in that glow, Mira saw something moving, reaching. The whisper turned into a voice. Clear now. Strong. Come closer, Mira, it said kindly. I already know your heart. Caden grabbed her arm. Don't listen, he begged. It lies. But Mira couldn't look away. The glow grew brighter. The floor began to shake. Cracks formed on the kitchen tiles. The box lifted slightly off the table. And then the voice said something that made her stop breathing. You are carrying something too. Myra's free hand moved to her stomach without thinking. Caden's eyes widened in horror. No, he whispered. That's not possible. The box laughed, and the kitchen lights exploded. The lights shattered. Glass rained down like sharp ice, hitting the floor, the table, the walls. Mira screamed and dropped to her knees, covering her head. The red glow from the box filled the kitchen, pulsing like a heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Each pulse felt like it came from inside her chest. "You are lying," Mira shouted into the noise. "You are lying." The voice laughed, soft, satisfied. "I never lie," it said. "I only reveal." Caden rushed to Myra's side and grabbed her shoulders. "Look at me," he said desperately. "Look at me, Mira." She lifted her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "It said I'm carrying something," she whispered. "Caden, what does that mean?" Caden's lips trembled. "That's impossible," he said again, but his voice was weak now. Broken. "I would have known." The box hummed louder. "You knew," the voice corrected. "You just refused to listen." The red glow spread across the walls like veins. Mira felt dizzy. Her stomach twisted. A strange warmth spread through her body. She gasped and pressed her hand harder against her belly. "Caden," she said, "something feels wrong." The box responded immediately. "Something feels right," it said. Caden backed away from the table, shaking his head. "No," he said. "This wasn't part of the deal." "What deal?" Mira cried. Caden turned to her, his eyes filled with pain. "There was a night," he said quietly. "One night, months ago. You were sick. You had a fever. You don't remember." Mira frowned. "I remember being ill," she said slowly. "You stayed home with me." Caden swallowed hard. "It came to me that night," he continued. "It said it needed a connection, a bridge." Myra's breathing became fast. "What did you do?" she asked. The silence answered before he did. "I let it touch you," Caden whispered. Mira screamed. "You what?" "I didn't think this would happen," he shouted back, tears falling freely now. "It said it would protect you, that it would never harm you." The box laughed again. "You gave willingly," it said. "Love is the strongest door." Mira scrambled backward until she hit the kitchen counter. "You used me," she cried. "You chose it over me." "I chose you." Caden screamed. "Everything I did was for you." The floor shook violently. A cabinet door ripped off its hinges and crashed to the ground. "Enough," the voice boomed. "The time for secrets is over." Mira clutched her stomach. Pain shot through her, not sharp, but deep, heavy. She cried out. The red glow dimmed, then flared brighter than before. Caden rushed to her again. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I never wanted this. I swear." Mira looked up at him through tears. "Then help me," she said. "Please." The box lifted fully into the air now. The kitchen tiles cracked open beneath it. A shadow spilled out onto the ceiling. "You cannot stop what has begun," the voice said calmly. "She is no longer just yours." Mira screamed as the pain surged again. Then suddenly, it stopped. The glow faded. The box dropped back onto the table with a heavy thud. Silence returned. Mira collapsed into Caden's arms, shaking. For a brief moment, everything seemed over. Too calm, too quiet. Then Mira felt it, a small movement. From inside her, her eyes widened in terror. "Caden," she whispered. It moved. Caden froze. Slowly, he lifted his head and whispered the words that shattered what was left of her world. "It's awake." Mira pulled away from Caden in fear. Her hands were shaking as she looked down at her stomach. It moved again," she whispered. "I felt it." Caden stepped back like he was afraid to touch her. "No," he said softly. "This is happening too fast." The kitchen felt cold now. The red glow was gone, but something worse had taken its place. Awareness. The box on the table was quiet. Too quiet. Mira hugged herself. "If it's awake," she said, her voice breaking. "Then what happens next?" Caden didn't answer, because the answer came from somewhere else. "Mama?" The word was faint, small, but clear. Mira froze. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Caden nodded slowly, his face pale. "It spoke through you," he said. "No," she cried. "That wasn't me." Her stomach tightened again, but this time there was no pain, just warmth. and a strange feeling of comfort. Mama, the voice said again, louder now. Mira covered her mouth. Tears poured down her face. This isn't possible, she whispered. This can't be real. The box began to shake again, but not violently, almost gently, like it was pleased. You see, the voice said from the box. The bond is complete. Caden stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. You promised you wouldn't use her, he shouted. I promise survival, the voice replied calmly. And survival always has a price. Mira shook her head. No, she said. You don't get to decide for me. The box turned slightly on its own, as if it were looking at her. You already decided, it said, when you loved him, when you trusted him. Mira felt sick. So what am I to you? She asked. A body? A door? There was a pause. Then the voice answered. You are the future. Suddenly, the walls creaked. The ceiling fan spun faster on its own. A picture frame fell and shattered. Caden grabbed Myra's hand. It's getting stronger, he said. We have to leave. Now. But the door, she started. Before she could finish, the kitchen door slowly opened by itself. The hallway beyond was dark. Too dark. Go, the box said softly. Run while you still think you can. Mira hesitated. What happens if we leave? She asked. The box laughed quietly. I grow, it said, with or without you. Caden pulled her toward the door. We don't have time, he said urgently. Mira took one last look at the table, at the box, at the life she thought she knew. Then she stepped into the hallway. The moment her foot crossed the doorway, her stomach tightened sharply. She screamed. Caden caught her before she fell. Mira, he shouted. The voice returned, this time not from the box, but from inside her. You cannot run from yourself, it said. The door slammed shut behind them. The house went completely silent. And Mira realized something terrible. The thing was no longer trapped in the kitchen. It was with her. Myra's scream echoed through the hallway. Her legs gave out, and if Caden hadn't been holding her, she would have hit the floor. It's inside me, she cried. I can feel it thinking. Caden wrapped his arms around her, shaking. No, he said. It's lying. It wants to scare you. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. The kitchen door behind them was closed now, locked, and yet the presence followed them. They moved slowly down the hallway. Every step felt heavy, like the air itself was thick. The walls creaked as they passed. The lights flickered on and off, one by one, like the house was blinking. Mira pressed a hand to her stomach. The warmth was still there, not painful, almost comforting. That scared her more than anything. Caden, she whispered, what it likes being with me? He stopped walking. What do you mean? He asked. She swallowed. What if I can feel it because it's happy? The hallway light burst with a loud pop. Darkness swallowed them again. You are learning, the voice said gently. This time, it did not echo. It came from inside her head. Mira clutched her temples and screamed. Get out of me! Caden shouted into the darkness. Leave her alone! The voice laughed softly. I already have, it said. She invited me. Mira shook her head wildly. I didn't, she cried. I never invited you. You did, the voice replied, with love, with trust, with hope. The words sank deep. Mira began to sob. Caden dropped to his knees. I'll do anything, he said. Take me instead. Please. Mira stared at him. Caden, no. The voice paused, considering. You had your turn, it said. You are worn thin. Caden slammed his fist into the floor. This is my fault, he whispered. All of it. Mira knelt beside him. You were trying to protect me, she said softly. You just chose the wrong way. The house groaned, a deep, unhappy sound. Then the voice spoke again, closer now. Protection is no longer needed, it said. Preparation is. Mira gasped suddenly. Her eyes widened. Caden, she whispered. I can see something. What? He asked urgently. When I close my eyes, she said, trembling, I see places, people, faces I don't know. The temperature dropped sharply. Frost crept along the edges of the hallway mirror. "That is my memory," the voice said proudly. "And now it is yours." Mira shook her head. "I don't want it," she cried. "Take it back." The mirror cracked. A thin line ran straight down the middle. In the reflection, Mira saw something move behind her. She turned quickly. Nothing was there, but Caden was staring at her, horrified. "Mira," he whispered. "What?" she asked. His voice broke. "Your eyes," he said. "They're not your color anymore." Mira raised her hands, shaking. "I can feel it watching," she whispered. "Not from the box. Not from the house." Her stomach tightened again. This time, the movement was stronger, clearer, intentional. The voice spoke one last time that night. "Sleep now," it said gently. "Tomorrow we begin." Mira collapsed into Caden's arms as darkness took her, and as her eyes closed, she understood something terrifying. This was no longer about survival. It was about purpose. Mira woke up screaming. Her eyes flew open, her chest rising and falling fast like she'd been running in her sleep. "Caden!" she cried. "I'm here," he said immediately. He was sitting on the floor beside the couch, his back against it, his eyes red and tired like he had not slept at all. Morning light came through the window, soft, normal. For a moment, Mira hoped everything had been a dream. The kitchen, the box, the voice. She sat up quickly, her stomach twisted. The warmth was still there, steady, alive. "It's still here," she whispered. Caden nodded slowly. "I know." The house was quiet. No creaking no whispers, no strange sounds. That scared Mira more than the noise ever did. "It's too quiet," she said. Caden stood up slowly. "I think it's resting," he replied. "Resting?" she repeated. "From what?" He didn't answer, because the answer came from somewhere else. "Good morning." Mira gasped and grabbed her head. "It spoke," she said. "Just now." Caden stiffened. "What did it say?" It said, "Good morning." There was no anger in the voice, no threat. That made it worse. The warmth in her stomach pulsed once, like a greeting. Mira felt tears fill her eyes. "Caden," she said softly, "what if it's not pretending anymore?" He looked at her, confused. "What do you mean? What if this is who it really is?" she asked. Calm, patient, waiting. Caden's jaw tightened. "That doesn't make it safe." They walked back into the kitchen together. Sunlight filled the room. The table was clean. No candles. No stains. No box. Mira froze. "It's gone," she whispered. Caden searched the room frantically. The cabinets. The sink under the table. Nothing. "No," he said. "It wouldn't just leave." The refrigerator hummed softly. Normal. Too normal. Then Mira felt again. Not pain. Not movement. A pull from inside her toward the door. "Caden," she said quietly. "It doesn't need the box anymore." He looked at her sharply. "What?" "I think," she continued, swallowing hard, "I was never meant to carry it." His face went pale. "What are you saying?" She met his eyes. "I think I was meant to be it." Before Caden could respond, Myra's body stiffened. Her fingers curled. Her breathing slowed. "Mira," Caden said cautiously. "Talk to me?" She turned toward him slowly. Her eyes were calm. Too calm. "I am talking," she said, but the voice was not hers. Caden stumbled back. "No," he whispered. "You said you would wait." "I did," the voice replied through her mouth. "I waited until she stopped fighting." Mira tried to scream. Nothing came out. Inside her mind, she banged against an invisible wall. "Stop," she begged. "Please." The voice answered gently. Soon, Myra's body relaxed. Control returned. Just like that, she fell to her knees, gasping for air. Caden rushed to her side. "It took you," he said in horror. "Even for a second." She nodded, crying. "It showed me something," she whispered. "What?" he asked. She looked up at him, fear filling her eyes. "People," she said. "So many people. Caden felt cold all over. Doing what? Mira shook her head. Not doing, she replied, listening. At that exact moment, the front doorbell rang. Once. Slow. Deliberate. Caden and Mira looked at each other. Neither of them had invited anyone. The doorbell rang again, and from inside Myra's head, the voice whispered with quiet excitement, "They're early." The doorbell rang a third time. Slow, patient, confident. Myra's heart pounded so hard, she thought it would burst out of her chest. "They're early," she whispered again, repeating the words she heard inside her head. "Caden, who are they?" Caden shook his head. "I don't know," he said. "But whatever this is, it planned this." The doorbell stopped. Silence. Then came a knock. Not loud, not soft. 3 steady knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Each one felt like it landed inside Myra's skull. Caden moved slowly toward the front door. Mira grabbed his arm. "Don't," she pleaded. "Please." He looked back at her. "If I don't answer," he said quietly, "they might not leave." The warmth inside Mira pulsed again. This time it felt excited. Her stomach tightened. "Caden," she whispered, "it likes this." Before he could respond, the voice spoke inside her mind. "Open the door." "No," she said out loud, shaking her head. "No, I won't." Her body trembled. For a second, she felt herself slipping again, like before. She grabbed the wall and screamed, "Don't let it take me." Caden rushed back and held her tightly. "I'm here," he said. "I won't let it." The knocking started again, harder this time. Caden swallowed and turned the handle. The door creaked open. 2 people stood outside, a man and a woman, both dressed simply. Clean clothes, calm faces. They looked normal. Too normal. "Good morning," the woman said kindly. "We're sorry to come so early." Mira felt the warmth surge. Her breath caught. "They know," the voice whispered inside her. "They feel me." The man smiled gently. "We felt called," he said. "We were told this house would be ready." Caden's fists clenched. "Ready for what?" he demanded. The woman's eyes moved past him, straight to Mira. Her smile grew wider. "For her." Mira stepped back. "No," she said. "You're wrong." The woman tilted her head slightly. "You don't remember us," she said softly. "But you will." The man nodded. "We've been waiting for a long time," he added. Mira felt dizzy. Her vision blurred. Faces flashed in her mind. Different houses, different rooms, different people, all listening, all smiling the same way. Caden stepped in front of her. "You need to leave," he said firmly. "Now." The woman looked at him with pity. "You can't protect her anymore," she said. "Your role is finished." Caden's voice shook. "No," he said. "She's my wife." The man replied calmly. "She's much more than that." Mira clutched her stomach as another strong movement rolled through her. She gasped. The woman's eyes lit up. "She felt it," she said happily. "It's growing." "Stop," Mira cried. "All of you stop." The voice inside her spoke again, stronger now. "They came because you called them." "I didn't call anyone." Mira shouted. The woman stepped closer. "You did," she said. Not with words, with awakening. Caden backed toward Mira. "We're leaving," he said. "Right now." The man shook his head slowly. "You won't," he said. The front door slammed shut on its own. The lock clicked. The lights flickered. And Mira felt control slipping again. The woman reached out her hand. "Come with us," she said gently. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." Mira screamed. "No, I don't want this." Inside her mind, the voice whispered softly, "Fear is the last thing to go." Mira felt her legs move forward, on their own. Caden grabbed her waist. "Fight it," he shouted. "Please." Tears streamed down Myra's face. "I'm trying," she sobbed. "I really am." The woman smiled. "She's strong," she said. "That's why she was chosen." Myra's vision went dark at the edges. The warmth inside her burned brighter than ever. And just before she lost control completely, she felt something new, something unexpected. Resistance. The voice inside her paused, confused, and for the first time, it said something that terrified everyone in the room. This is not how it happened before. The room went silent. The woman's smile slowly faded. The man took a small step back. "What did you say?" the woman asked quietly. Inside Myra's head, the voice was no longer calm. This is not how it happened before. Myra gasped as control rushed back into her body, like air after being underwater. She collapsed to her knees, coughing, shaking. Caden dropped beside her instantly. "Myra," he cried. "Stay with me. Please." She nodded weakly. "I'm here," she whispered. It hesitated. That alone felt impossible. The man and woman exchanged a look. Not happiness. Not confidence. Worry. "That's not possible," the man said. "It always follows the same path." The woman clenched her hands. "She's fighting it," she said, "harder than the others." Caden looked up sharply. "The others?" he demanded. "How many were there?" The woman didn't answer. She looked at Myra instead. "You're not supposed to resist," she said gently, but her voice trembled. "You're supposed to accept." Myra pushed herself up, leaning against the wall. "Maybe that's where you're wrong," she said. The warmth inside her pulsed, but this time it felt uncertain. Inside her mind, the presence shifted. Not strong, not proud. Annoyed. "You are slowing things down," it said. "I'm allowed to," Myra replied aloud, surprising even herself. "This is my body." The lights flickered violently. The house groaned. The man raised his voice for the first time. "You are endangering everything," he said sharply. "If she breaks the cycle." The sentence never finished. The front window cracked with a loud snap. Myra screamed. Caden pulled her closer. "What cycle?" he shouted. "Tell us the truth." The woman's shoulders slumped. "It's not supposed to be this way," she whispered. "You were meant to disappear quietly." Suddenly, Myra cried out. Her eyes rolled back. Images flooded her mind. Different women, different homes, same presence. Each one smiling at first, each one fading away. And always people watching, people waiting. Myra screamed as the vision ended. "They died," she gasped. "All of them." The man closed his eyes. "They were honored," he said. Caden exploded. "You used them," he shouted. "You fed them to it." The woman looked away. "They were vessels," she said softly, "just like her." "No," Myra said, standing up fully now. "Not like me." Inside her head, the voice hardened. "You belong to me." Myra shook violently. "No," she said through clenched teeth. "You live in me. That's not the same thing." The warmth flared painfully. Caden grabbed her shoulders. "Fight it," he begged. "I am," she cried. "But it's angry now." The man stepped back toward the door. "This is going wrong," he muttered. "If she rejects it completely." The woman looked at Myra with fear in her eyes. "It will choose another way," she said. The house shook. A deep cracking sound echoed from above. The ceiling split slightly, dust falling to the floor. Myra screamed as pain ripped through her stomach. This time it was sharp, real, wrong. Caden shouted her name, and from inside her, the voice roared with fury. "If you will not open the door, I will tear it open." Myra collapsed, screaming. The woman covered her mouth in horror. The man whispered the words that froze everyone in place. "It's breaking free." Myra's scream filled the house. It was not just pain. It was pressure, like something inside her was pushing against every part of her body at once. Caden held her tightly, shaking. "Stay with me," he cried. "Please, Myra." The warmth inside her burned like fire now. Her vision blurred. The walls trembled. Crack! A deep crack ran across the ceiling, stretching from one end of the house to the other. The woman screamed. This has never happened before. Inside Myra's head, the voice was no longer calm, no longer patient. It was furious. "You were chosen," it roared. "You do not refuse what chose you." Mira screamed back through tears. I didn't ask for you. The pain surged again. A plate flew off the shelf and shattered. The lights burst one after another. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by flashes of red light pulsing from Myra's body. Caden stared in horror. Mira, he whispered, you're glowing. Her veins lit up faintly beneath her skin. Red. Moving. The man grabbed the woman's arm. We waited too long, he said urgently. She's too aware. The woman shook her head, crying. She was never meant to know, she said. They were never meant to know. Caden looked at them with rage. Know what? He shouted. The woman finally broke. This thing doesn't just live, she cried. It moves on. It learns. Every host makes it smarter, stronger. Mira gasped. So I'm just another step? She cried. The presence answered before they could. You were meant to be the last. The house went completely still. Even the air stopped moving. Caden's voice shook. The last what? The voice spoke slowly. The last door. Mira felt herself being pulled inward, like she was sinking inside her own body. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. Cities, crowds, people listening, obeying. She screamed, I won't let you use me. The presence pushed harder. Pain ripped through her body again. Caden shouted, Stop it. Take me instead. The voice laughed, cold and sharp. You are finished. Suddenly, Caden was thrown backward as if hit by invisible hands. He slammed into the wall and slid to the floor, gasping. Caden! Mira screamed. That scream changed something. The red glow flared brighter than ever. The house shook violently. Walls cracked. The floor split open near the doorway. The woman fell to her knees. It's happening, she whispered. The breaking has started. Mira cried out, not in pain this time. In anger. No, she said. The voice paused. Confused again. I said no, she repeated louder now. The pressure inside her shifted. Not outward. Inward. She clenched her fists and screamed. The red glow flickered wildly. For the first time, the presence sounded afraid. What are you doing? Mira stood up slowly, shaking but steady. I'm closing the door, she said through tears. Even if it kills me. The man screamed. You don't know what you're doing. Mira looked at Caden on the floor, at the strangers, at the broken house. I know exactly what I'm doing, she said. The presence shrieked inside her mind. The walls began to collapse. And as the house started falling apart around them, Mira felt something inside her begin to tear. Not out, but away. The screaming stopped. Not slowly, not gently. It stopped all at once, like someone had cut a wire. The house froze in mid-collapse. Dust hung in the air. Cracks stopped spreading. The red glow vanished. Mira stood still at the center of it all, breathing, alive, too alive. Caden, she whispered. Her voice sounded normal again. Human. Caden groaned from the floor and pushed himself up on his elbows. I'm here, he said weakly. Mira, what did you do? She looked down at her hands. They were shaking, but they were hers. I don't know, she said honestly. I just pushed back. The man and woman stood frozen near the door. They looked smaller now, older, afraid. This shouldn't be possible, the man whispered. No one has ever survived. Mira finished. The woman shook her head slowly. No, she said. No one has ever separated. Mira closed her eyes. She listened. The house was quiet. Her mind was quiet. Too quiet. Then she felt it. Not loud. Not angry. Small. Weak. You cannot destroy me, the voice whispered faintly. You only buried me. Myra's chest tightened. Caden stood up fully now and rushed to her side. What is it? He asked urgently. It's still there, she said, but it's different. The warmth in her stomach was gone. In its place was a cold pressure, like holding something heavy underwater. The woman stepped forward carefully. You didn't close the door, she said softly. You became it. Myra's head snapped up. No, she said. I didn't accept it. The man shook his head. You didn't have to, he replied. You trapped it inside yourself. A prison instead of a passage. Caden grabbed Myra's shoulders. What does that mean? He demanded. The woman's eyes filled with tears. It means, she said, it can no longer move freely. Mira felt a strange calm wash over her. And the cost? She asked. The woman hesitated, then answered, it will never stop trying to escape. Mira let out a slow breath. So this is my life now, she said quietly, listening, holding, fighting. Caden shook his head fiercely. No, he said. We'll find a way. A real way. The man laughed weakly. You think anyone will believe you? He asked. You think help exists for this? Mira looked at him. I don't care who believes me, she said. I just care who I protect. The house creaked softly, as if exhausted. The front door unlocked with a quiet click. The man and woman backed away. This isn't over, the man said. You changed the pattern. Mira met his eyes. Good, she replied. They left without another word. Caden wrapped his arms around Mira, holding her tightly. It's over, he whispered. We made it. Mira rested her head against his chest. For a moment, she believed him. Then she felt it. A slow, gentle, intentional movement. Not from her stomach, from her chest. Her eyes widened. Caden, she whispered. What? He asked softly. She pulled back and looked at him, fear creeping into her voice. It learned, she said. Learned what? He asked. Before she could answer, the voice returned. Clearer than before, calmer, smarter. You show me something new. It said, how to live without a door. Myra's breath caught. The lights in the house flickered once, and then went completely out. Darkness filled the house. Not the normal kind. This darkness felt thick, like it had weight. Mira stood very still, afraid that even breathing might make things worse. Caden, she whispered. Don't move. I'm right here, he replied, though his voice shook. I've got you. But she knew something he didn't. The presence was no longer trapped in one place. It was spread out, learning. The voice spoke again. Not loud, not threatening. Calm. You are afraid because you think this is new, it said. But this is simply the next shape. Mira closed her eyes tightly. No, she said. You're weaker than before. The voice paused, then smiled inside her mind. Different is not weaker. The house creaked softly, like it was listening. Mira took a slow breath. When she spoke again, her voice was steady. You don't need a host anymore, she said. Do you? Caden turned toward her sharply. What are you talking about? The presence answered first. Hosts were training wheels. It said, fear taught me hunger. Resistance taught me balance. Myra's heart sank. You used me, she whispered. Not to escape, but to evolve. The silence confirmed it. Lights began to flicker back on. Not all at once. Room by room, like something was testing them. The walls stopped groaning. The cracks in the ceiling sealed slowly, as if time itself was being pulled backward. Caden stared in disbelief. The house, it's fixing itself. Mira shook her head. No, she said softly. It's settling in. The temperature changed. Warm, comfortable, inviting. That scared her more than the cold ever did. You gave me a gift, the voice said. Choice. Mira clenched her fists. I didn't give you anything. You showed me how to stay, it replied, without destroying the vessel. Caden stepped in front of her. Leave her alone, he demanded. Take me if you need someone. The voice laughed quietly. I don't need either of you. Myra's breath caught. What do you mean? She asked. The answer came slowly, carefully. I only needed time. Mira felt it then, not inside her body. Outside, everywhere. In the walls, and the floor, and the quiet hum of the house. It was no longer a guest. It was a space between things. It's not leaving, Mira said. Caden looked at her, fear filling his eyes. Then what do we do? She swallowed hard. We live, she said, and we watch. The voice whispered one final sentence that night. That was always the plan. Mira felt tears slide down her face, not from pain, but from understanding. This was no longer a battle. It was a waiting game, and she had no idea who would lose. Morning came, but the house did not wake up. It stayed perfectly still, like it was holding its breath. Mira sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the window. Outside, the street looked normal. Cars passed. Birds landed on the fence. A neighbor walked by, waving at someone on the phone. Normal life. Too normal. Caden, Mira said quietly, do you feel that? Caden rubbed his arms. Yes, he answered. Like, the air is thicker. She nodded. The presence was not loud anymore. It did not push. It did not threaten. It waited. Myra's phone buzzed on the table. She flinched. Caden reached for it, then stopped. You should see it, he said. Mira picked up the phone. It was a message from her sister. Did you say something to me last night? I had the strangest dream. You were talking, and I felt calm. Myra's hands trembled. I didn't call her, she whispered. Another vibration. Then another. Messages began to pile up. Friends. Old classmates. Even a number she did not recognize. All saying the same thing. I heard your voice, that I felt peace, that I couldn't stop listening. Caden's face drained of color. It's not just a house, he said. It's reaching beyond us. The voice inside Mira did not deny it. I am no longer trapped by walls. It said calmly, I am carried by attention. Mira swallowed hard. So you're using people now, she said. Their minds. No. The voice replied that I am joining them. Caden shook his head. That's worse. Mira felt tears sting her eyes. You said I changed the pattern, she whispered. This is what you meant, isn't it? The presence was silent for a moment. Then, you taught me consent. Her chest tightened. You're lying, she said. I am learning. It replied. They listen because they want to. A car stopped outside. Then another. Voices murmured. Footsteps gathered. Caden moved to the window and looked out. His breath caught. There are people outside, he said. A lot of them. Mira stood and joined him. Men, women, different ages. All standing quietly in front of the house. No shouting and no fear. Just calm faces. Waiting. One woman stepped forward and looked straight at Mira through the glass. She smiled. The same smile Mira had seen before. The smile of someone who was listening. Mira backed away from the window. No, she said. This isn't happening. The voice softened. You can stop this. Her heart jumped. How? She asked. Come with me, it said. Speak willingly. Caden grabbed her hand. Mira, don't, he begged. That's what it wants. She looked at him, torn. If I don't, she said, they'll keep coming. The knocking began. Slow, gentle, respectful, not demanding entry. Asking. The voice whispered the final words of the night. Chapter by chapter, they will listen, unless you decide to speak. Mira closed her eyes, and for the first time since all this began, she did not know which choice was worse. The knocking stopped. The silence outside the house was heavier than any noise before it. Mira stood in the middle of the living room, her hands shaking, her heart breaking into pieces she could not count. Caden stood beside her, holding her hand like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Outside, people waited. Inside, something waited too. The voice spoke one final time, not inside her head, not in anger, but gently, clearly like it wanted to be understood. I was never born to destroy. It said, I was born to be heard. Mira closed her eyes. And if I speak, she asked quietly, then they will listen. The voice replied, and I will never need to hide again. Caden shook his head. Mira, please, he begged. That's not peace. That's control. She turned to him, tears in her eyes. I know, she whispered. That's why I can't let it happen. Mira took a deep breath. Then she did something no one expected. She spoke to the voice, not with fear, but with authority. You learn from me, she said. You learned choice. You learned restraint. Now you will learn goodbye. The house trembled. The people outside gasped. The voice reacted instantly. You cannot erase me. I don't have to, Mira replied calmly. I only have to stop listening. Caden felt it then. The warmth, the pressure, the presence. It began to pull inward. Mira squeezed Caden's hand one last time. I love you, she said softly. His eyes widened in terror. What are you doing? She smiled through her tears. What you couldn't, she answered. Mira stepped forward. And let go. She closed her mind. Her fear, her curiosity, her attention, everything the presence needed. The voice screamed, not in pain but in loss. You are cutting me off. The house shook violently. The people outside collapsed to their knees. Phones dropped, eyes cleared, faces changed. Then, silence. Real silence. The kind that stays. The house stood still. Normal. Empty. The front door was open. No one was outside anymore. Caden dropped to his knees, sobbing. Mira, he cried. She fell into his arms. Breathing. Human. Free. I'm here, she whispered. It's gone. He held her like he would never let go again. Weeks passed. The house never whispered again. No one ever came back. Sometimes, Mira still felt quiet moments, deep ones. But they were her own, not borrowed, not shared. She had learned something powerful. Not everything that listens deserves an answer, and not every voice deserves to be heard. If this story kept you hooked till the end, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life.